Hey everybody, this is Tim Charron, and welcome to my brand new podcast called The Charron Zone, blah, 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 blah. And welcome to The Charron Zone. I am here with Chris Robley. Did I get the name right?
You got it right.
Awesome. So Chris is a musician. Let's first start by asking how you would classify your music, because I got the privilege of seeing you live, which was a totally cool story within itself, because you just so happened to be playing across the street from my house that I only stay at for a couple months during the summer, which was an amazing coincidence. And I blew off my family get-together to go.
Wow. I hope I didn't disappoint then.
No, it was great.
I disappointed your family, I guess, but...
That's okay. I do that on a consistent basis. I'm probably doing that right now. So how would you describe your music? Because I have some descriptions that I could throw in there as well. All good.
Well, okay, so the descriptor that stuck with me for a long time was the Stephen King of indie pop.
Oh, shit. That is fantastic.
And I would say I'm changing a little bit more in a singer-songwriter, Americana-ish direction musically, and then definitely way more of a kind of a political narrative lyrical content, like hopefully not in a preachy way, but maybe more of a Mary Gauthier, Bruce Springsteen direction.
Well, yeah, that's... Well,
but I haven't really honestly released. I've written probably 60 of those kinds of songs, but I haven't released them yet. So that's sort of this that's the next phase. So I guess I'm still the Stephen King of indie pop.
Well, that's a super cool moniker. But I would definitely say from watching and listening to you live, Americana. Very lyric driven.
Yeah.
Great lyrics, if I do say so myself. I mean, there's not many people that you go, or that I go and I sit there and I watch and listen and, really get into, I love story songs, and I love songs that are just gives you a sense of a place and feeling, like almost like a mini movie, and you had a lot of songs that were like that, so it was really impressive. But definitely Americana, that's what hit me.
Yeah, well, thank you. I feel like I am a huge fan. It's not even a guilty pleasure. I just love pop music, top 40 pop music.
Me too.
And I never write stuff like that. I want my songs to be like little worlds in and of themselves, if they can be. And I feel like, pop music generally is not that. But I don't know. So in places, if I can find a way to kind of bridge the catchiness of the one with the lyrical narrative world making kind of thing on the other, I don't know. That's the goal. I don't know if I've achieved it yet, but
well, it's always a work in progress. But I think Springsteen would be a good example of maybe someone who his whole career he's been kind of trying to go from sliding on that scale of being a poet and being a pop star. Almost, I don't know if you know a lot of like John Mellencamp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've he's one of my favorite writers, and he's kind of that guy who has all these hits and seemingly could write a hit every day, but he also really strives for more content, so to speak.
Yeah, both those guys are great at, and what would you say, like having a message that's important to convey, but not beating you over the head with it. Like they're ultimately just concerned about humans, and then they tell some sort of human story with good detail, and that's enough to sometimes I guess they could both get a little preachy, but that's fine. We need that. We need some preachiness too. But yeah. And I've really been obsessed, probably for 20 years now, with The Ghost of Tom Joad, Bruce Springsteen's very acoustic stripped down album. don't know if you know that, but
no, is that like Nebraska? Was Nebraska like that?
yeah, it's actually like people regard it as his sort of follow-up to Nebraska in that same vein. It's a little more fleshed out and produced with, some light drums and violins and things, but it's great. You should check it out.
Oh, I will. I love it.
So lyrically, that's kind of been haunting me for the last few years, in particular.
Excellent. So what else have you got going on your schedule with your music? Any touring coming up? I know that you have a CD that you're giving out.
Yeah, well, so I always have too many. What's the term? Irons in the fire.
Yeah.
So I'm giving away my most recent CD, but it's more than 2 years old at this point, and kind of want to clear the shelves to make room for the next one, and get people who have maybe heard of me but never, made the jump to actually getting one of my CDs. So basically what I'm doing is, if they cover the shipping and handling, I will send it to them. I'll autograph it. I send a little card kind of thing that has some details about the record, and so it's been a fun way for me to honestly just get rid of some CDs and turn some hopefully casual fans into deeper fans. And if I can, I'll plug it if I can. If you go to go.chrisrobley.com, you too can get a free CD.
There we go. Because I'm I'm on chrisrobley.com right now. So there you go. Get the free CD. And what songs or would you consider maybe like singles on this CD, so people can like go there and listen to some of your favorites?
Yeah, the one that got the most like views on YouTube and that in reviews people thought of as the single is a song called Anonymous, which I think is a perfectly fine, catchy song, but it doesn't have that kind of really weightier lyrical content. It's kind of like one of those more throwaway pop songs, which is fine. I don't want to shit on my own songs. But so that's the one that most people like. I'm more proud of a song called Fisher King, which
Fisher
is
King.
Yeah, and that's, it's not a single. It's probably 5 minutes long, but that was the song I think I wrote first, and it set the template for me for that record and what I wanted it to be. So that's a song I'm really proud of.
I think I remember this one. Did you play? What's the gist of the song about?
It's basically about. So I wrote a lot of this stuff in the aftermath of my marriage. Well, I say falling apart, but I kind of just destroyed it, and had a lot of guilt about the way in which I went about things. And so that song is about dealing with the pain I feel about having inflicted pain on someone else, and realizing it was going to be really difficult or almost impossible for me to heal until that person had healed.
Oof. Wow.
So it was kind of like, song about waiting and just dealing and kind of sitting in the mess I'd made.
Wow. So I'm sorry, I'm looking at all your. So you're a musician, obviously, and you're also a poet.
Yeah, that was a kind of.
So this all makes sense.
Yeah, the poetry thing, I've been a musician my whole life. The poetry thing I didn't really start pursuing seriously until about 2010. And I don't know why exactly. I think I had done music for a while and had, burned myself out to some degree, and also felt like I'd used up all my tricks. And so I felt like I wasn't really surprising myself that much. And of course that turned out not to be true, because I've since then found many ways to try new things, for me at least. But anyways, at the time I needed to just shift focus, so I switched to poetry, which is, related to lyric writing, but it's kind of its own world about what you can do and the connections you can try to make. And
Right, it's exactly the same but totally different.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I did that, and after a few years of kind of writing probably lots of terrible poems, I started writing things that I was proud of and also thought other people would like. So I started sending those out for publication, and that's a whole weird, wacky world. But yeah, I had some good luck with getting published in some fairly well-respected poetry magazine and things like that.
I'm going to read them off just to brag about you.
All right.
Prairie Schooner, Poetry Northwest. The next one, I will mess up the name. How do you say B-E-L-O-I-T? Beloit Poetry. Yep. Let's see. The winner of Boulevard's Poetry Prize for Emerging Writers. Recipient of a Maine Literary Award in Poetry, and was selected by Robert Pinsky as a finalist for the Dorset Prize.
Yeah, Dorset. Yeah.
I mean,
and that was cool because I love Robert Pinsky's writing, and he didn't love mine enough to make me the winner, but
hey, finalist.
I got a nod. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's very impressive. That's extremely impressive, and I'm sure that at some point, it probably helped you revitalize as far as being a songwriter as well. So,
yeah, I mean, I think this is again one of those things where like very few of the songs I've written over the past couple of years have come out yet, but it's definitely made my lyrics. I hope better. I know they're way better than, and because of that, I've actually gotten a lot more patient and less demanding with my music around the lyrics. Like I feel like now that I think a much better lyricist, I'm letting the songs breathe more. I'm letting the emotion come out more. Like, I'm just sort of more confident in the song. As a lot of my earlier stuff was highly orchestrated, strings, horns, bells and whistles, lots of stuff, which, maybe that's exciting in one way, but I'm just in a different place now.
Yeah. But I think, coming from purely from a songwriter's perspective, bells and whistles are bells and whistles.
Yeah.
It's all about the song, and then the arrangement is just icing on the cake.
Right.
So seeing that this is about the music industry and what I like to call the real music industry from in the trenches, let's just talk about a few things that you've done wrong and right, because you've got a pretty impressive career already, and you're trying to take it to the next level, whatever that is for you. But if you could just enlighten people with maybe some stuff that you stumbled with, when you're or last week. I mean, we've all
sure. Well, to not to be diminish my accomplishments, but I feel like I'm someone who has had more critical success than anything that showed up in sales or like sold out venues across anything like that. It's sort of like I've felt when I put records out, they've gotten well reviewed, almost unanimously well reviewed, and that's great and nice. But I feel like that might have been too much of my focus, wanting that kind of hip approval, hipster attention, wanting approval from the right sources, as if there's such a thing. Because ultimately, the mistake I guess I'm saying is, I didn't place the connection with the listener and as the most important thing. And I don't think it affected the music so much. I always made music for me first and foremost, and I still do, and people definitely responded to it. But I think had I taken attention and budget away from things like publicity, I could have put that energy and time and money into reaching new listeners, whether that's at the time, I guess it could have been on YouTube or Facebook advertising or whatever. But so these are these things I'm kind of more recently becoming inspired to do, is saying, like, to hell with all these intermediaries that I thought I needed their approval before anyone would take me seriously. Like, the only thing that matters now is I can certainly have access to reach new listeners, and then it's totally up to me whether the video and or song move that person enough that they pay attention for 15 seconds. And if they do, hopefully they pay attention for 3 minutes. But anyways, putting the most important thing back on the listener. And I did not do that. I wanted the pat on the back, and I wanted to be one of the, the cool kids or whatever. And it's just such a total black hole waste of time, because I don't know. And that if you keep going down that road, it seems like it's never going to be good enough anyways.
Right. Well, I mean, this is fantastic. It's something that I haven't experienced, because as you know, when you're a recording artist, there are 5 billion things to chase and try to focus on, and I never even considered that, and I don't have any write-ups that I could speak of that would impress anyone. But it's good, because I think this is why I have people like you on, to get a perspective of, like, hey, here's something you might want to, if you find yourself doing it, you might want to reconsider it, or you might want to temper it, or you might, you know what I mean?
Totally. And I don't want to sound ungrateful. Like, it has, in some ways, I know certain things have been easier. For instance, like a cold email to some venue to get a gig might be easier if below my email signature is a quote from the LA Times or whatever, but then I would look at someone, like, I feel like before we started recording, you were talking about playing a certain kind of gig with at a festival in front of all these people. And I'm like, well, that's something like I've done a little bit of, but I'd trade a lot of my good press for the audience, which is ultimately what's the most important thing. And it's funny, once I kind of, I have to credit my wife and my daughter, the birth of my daughter, and figuring out how to be a family person who somewhat unnaturally had to learn how to put myself second and my creative drive second. That kind of recontextualized my it sounds kind of whatever, armchair psychologist. So it sort of recontextualized my soul in a very calming way, where internally my priorities have shifted, even in terms of my art. And as soon as I did that, I started getting way more email responses from people on my email list, and more of that genuine connection between the listener and me just started to happen naturally as my own priorities shifted, which is, I think, a sign that it's the right move. And that just happened kind of organically. Yeah, I mean, I think it might be that the way I'm sharing my music has changed. It might be that my music has changed. It could be in that I've just decided to let certain walls down and be more. I think my default mode is very sarcastic and protective because of. Could trace it back to the teenage years and pain or whatever, but anyway, so just guarding myself in that way is a kind of default mode, which I still like to some degree because it's part of my personality. I think it can be funny and charming, but it can also be sharp and keep people at a distance. I don't trust anybody who is not sarcastic personally. That's a wise move. But yeah, I had to intentionally drop that in moments and say, you know what, this is a time to show appreciation. So something as simple as letting the people know that are in my band or that make music with me on a consistent basis how deeply I appreciate them, and the fact that often they're not getting, either not getting paid or they're not getting paid nearly what they deserve in order to record with me or play shows. Or it's like, how amazing is that? But for me to just simply first have the awareness of what a gift it is, and then to say, you know what, let your walls down and tell them and go out of your way to be appreciative is something I had to learn, which is crazy. And I think in my earlier years when I was wrapped up in wanting to seem cool and all that stuff, that was certainly not a priority. And I think I hurt a lot of people who invested their time or talents in collaborating with me because I didn't show enough appreciation.
Well, this makes a ton of sense, and I think it's something. These things are they're so important, and it's obviously something that you've learned over, a period of time, and that's kind of, what maybe young. I know that when I was younger and just starting to do this and to try to do it professionally, I know I did the same thing. I think it's you're so focused on what people are gonna think. You're putting yourself out there that in a way you don't care or show that you care about the people that are helping you.
Mm-hmm. And
maybe not even. I'll just speak for myself. Like, I had to learn to, especially be on stage, because that's my, I'm only good at a couple things in this life, and one of them, I believe, is performing. So it's something that I've worked on most of my life, and that was always kind of my. We all need our calling cards, to gain more success. So that was always my thing. And even during performances, I had to become more outwardly, what was the word you used? Gratitude. I don't know how to say that, but more outwardly, like, loving towards the actual audience, more like calling out my band members, even if it's a super short set and we don't have time, but just, if I can't give them a proper intro, like, let them play something at least in front of people, say, hey, this is so-and-so on the bass, thank you so much. And I think that sometimes when you're at the beginning, or when I was at the beginning, it was so much, I was so up my own ass, basically.
Yeah.
It was so much about me. It was so much about, look at my songs, look at how cool I am, look at how this, look at how that. I'm Axl Rose. It doesn't make any sense. It makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, I think I came at it very similarly, but from a little bit different angle. Is I never felt cool. That sort of look at me, look how cool I am. I was plagued with I feel so uncool, and I so desperately want to be cool. And so whatever awkwardness or tension comes from that was, totally unhelpful. And only through time have I felt like I've settled into myself, and now I feel like I can put on a genuine performance where I'm comfortable. I believe in the songs, the banter is coming naturally. Before 10, 15 years, it was like, what a mess, I'm sure. And then, like, the other thing, like, when you're, I don't know, a teenager or in your early 20s or whatever, maybe this goes on longer, but, like, our perception of time is so flawed and leads to this desperation. Like, I was joking with a coworker of mine about how, like, we have this podcast that we run for CD Baby, and a caller had called in and said, like, I'm going to go on this trip, and the rest of the guys in my band were really serious, but I'm worried that they're going to take, offense and be threatened by the fact that I'm going to go away for a little bit. And he had this opportunity to go to Rome for a little bit. And it was like, in the grand scheme of his life, he needs to go to Rome. And if they're serious, like, there's other things they can all be doing while they're not physically together to be touring or whatever it is they need to do. But I completely remembered that state of mind when I was 20 or whatever. And my drummer was like, hey, I have to go back home for a week to visit family. And I'm like, you can't go home for a week. We have practice. Like, as if that 1 week was going to, like, make or break the band, or that suddenly his need to be a member of a family meant that he wasn't committed to being a musician as well. It's like so ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of us think that way when we're younger.
Yeah. Oh, I totally see that in myself. So I totally relate with many things. A week seems like half your lifetime, and
yeah,
and half your band, and and you mentioned CD Baby. When I moved to Nashville like 10 years ago, when I moved there, to be there full time, and was poor and desperate, and decided, I'm gonna be a music star. I listened to CD Baby's podcast.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Every day that I could, I would sit in my, with my now wife, in a crappy little apartment, trying to like hell to get gigs, calling for hours, and the whole time listening to the podcasts, because it was, it was just the one thing that, that I had that was like, could constantly be giving me encouragement when things were so awful.
Because they're so awful for us too. We get your pain. I think at the time, there's a lot of great music podcasts now. I feel like at the time when we launched it, there was very few that were just like kind of real people in the trenches, like you're saying.
Yeah, man. And I used so many of the things, throughout my awful career, and a lot of them helped. And I was just telling you about the postcard thing, and I got that through a combination of one of the podcasts on like they were talking about like a leaflet to hand out at your gigs. So I combined that idea with I did real estate for a minute, and that's how I lost all of my money and went bankrupt. Back in like 2009, when I lost all my money.
When the whole country went bankrupt.
Yeah, and I moved to Nashville. And that was it was brutally rough. But I used the old marketing thing that every realtor in the country sends out these postcards with their big face on them, and their listing and stuff like that. And the company that I was working with, they did that all day and night. For the realtors. So I just kind of took those two ideas and put it together, and I still use it. I have 500 postcards coming to me in the mail.
Wow. Yeah, that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, is how these practices that work in other industries very rarely get brought into the music industry.
Right.
Not because they won't work, but I think because musicians are slightly different, or like suspicious of things that seem salesy or whatever. I don't know exactly what the reason is, but like I've made a point over the last 6 months of trying to be more learning, have an open mind about like entrepreneurial stuff. And
well, I think definitely now. That's why we're doing the podcast. That's why I think it's it could be possibly a golden era for independent musicians who also can at least teach themselves to be entrepreneurs. Because I'll just speak for myself. I never thought I'd be doing this well as an unsigned, completely 100% self everything managed little business. And it's because I treat it like a business. And I've had to teach myself to, when I started, I wanted, like everybody else did, I wanted to, wake up on the tour bus and then, have them wake me up with champagne and say, Mr. Charron, your time is now to go wow the millions of people waiting for you at the stadium, and then dinner will be ready for you with the groupies after the show.
With a team of 70 people handling every aspect of your career. for you.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even walk to the stage myself. I'd be carried in my little, idiotic fantasy. But, I've had to, the more and more and more that I've tried to learn about it, the more and more I've become more obsessed with the business aspect of it, because, I think that's a lot of us musicians are just not, whether or not we're not business minded, I think we use the other side of our brains, or however you want to call it. I mean, we use the other side, and it's so personal. Like, how do you? That's such a trick to, in life you gotta, in some aspect you have to sell. You have to sell yourself if you want to. I don't know, if you want to be an attorney, you have to sell yourself. If you want to be an electrician, you have to sell yourself. But when it's music, it's so personal that you're selling you're selling your soul, or you're selling your poetry that you're putting to music.
Sometimes the biggest obstacles for embracing that mindset, or embracing any kind of particular strategy that you're going to try, is just these like very basic things, like not everyone's going to like my music. Okay, great. Now I have to embrace that. I have to somehow say, if I want to end up having 10,000 new fans, I'm probably going to have to like somewhat impress 100,000 people. And in order to do that, I need to reach, who knows, 5 million. I don't know what the numbers play out to be, but like embracing mass rejection, which is inevitable and doesn't mean you're not good. It's like, no one agrees on anything. Like,
right. Well,
there's no way we're all going to agree that my song is the greatest thing that's ever come out like this year.
Well, I totally agree with you, and I personally take it a step further. I have this whole thing. I was telling you earlier that I gave this speech at a university about anti-bullying and basically haters and stuff. And I've developed this. Everything I do with my wife, because we're together 24 hours a day, but we both do this for both of our businesses in our lives, and we've developed this, and it's basically the main name for it is revenge success, and in a nutshell, it's and you can get this from like Tim Ferriss, the author. Mm-hmm. This is in some of his books, as well as many other books. But basically, number one, you're not. If somebody doesn't hate you, then you're not getting out there enough. And I truly believe this. I know. I mean, I feed off it now. That's what I'm trying to say. I take the Michael Jordan approach, and I don't know if you're familiar with Michael Jordan, but his mindset, especially near the second half of his career, was he was so great, and they were winning championships, that he would make stuff up just to piss him off. To like he would remember, this guy on the bench said something to him, during the preseason, just so he could go off for 50, just to motivate himself. So I went through all this stuff, and back in the day, I started doing my first real big show. Was opening for Bret Michaels, who from Poison, that I've worked with a bunch of times. I just saw him a couple weeks ago. Visited with him. And my very, very, very first real opening show with the band, we had opened for Jerry Jeff Walker before this. And I'd opened solo for a few other people. But a huge show, long story long, my band who I was hiring, again, going back to probably not being like the nicest boss, or so to speak, or knowing how to do this, knowing how to treat people around me, but they all revolted, and they were like, oh, this guy's just all about himself. And I didn't know if they were going to show up to rehearse. I didn't know if they were going to show up to the show. I didn't know if they were going to, they were doing a lot of drugs. I didn't know if they were going to do drugs at the venue, and I was going to get kicked out, all this stuff. So I had all this crazy stress. So we go and do this show, 5,000 people. I'm going to change my career, It was my first real big production, like rock star show.
Uh-huh.
And I crushed it and got through it. A lot of things changed. I got amazing opportunities after it, but right after, come to find out all these guys in my band, they're on their little Facebook and they're saying all this stuff about me. I'm sorry to bore you with this story, but
no, I'm intrigued.
It all comes back to revenge success, right? So I'm devastated, God, I'm sensitive enough as it is, you know what I mean? I'm like a ball of friggin' wax, I don't even know if that makes sense, but I'm a really sensitive person. I've always wanted everybody to love me or to at least like me, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
You go through this and you're like, man, I'm just trying to do the right thing and give these guys an opportunity. Plus, I'm paying them. It's not like they're doing it for free, And it was devastating in my mind. And so they're on Facebook like the next week and just ripping me, just saying all this stuff. Them with their wives and their girlfriends and all this stuff. Right? This is after, I had them on the biggest opportunity that anyone had ever gotten. For them. It was, and I told them before the show, I said, this is going to be the biggest show, at least of my life, and you guys too, because, I know your career. So long story long, I just deleted them from Facebook, from social media, and I went on a motherfucking tear of calling venues that hasn't stopped. I was so, I'm a cupcake and I'm very sensitive, but I'm also an extremely nasty person. So I took that anger, and this is what I talked about at the college with my speech. It's like, we're all of us are all of these things, you know what I mean? We're all super nice people. We can all be great friends, but we're also can be, we all have anger. We all have resentment. We all have, someone says they don't like our music. It pisses us off. We'll use that. Use it. Use that anger and focus it and funnel it into doing the stuff that maybe you don't want to do, but that those other people aren't going to do.
Yeah.
They didn't go home the next week and start calling all these little. At this point, I was still playing, bars and bar stools,
mm-hmm.
solo. But I was like, I am going to be a fucking tornado of success someday, so that I can show these motherfuckers.
Yeah. Well, and if you don't turn it into that kind of motivating energy, then it's just gonna turn into fear, and you're gonna stop putting yourself out there, and you'll never release a record again. And your revenge, what'd you call it? Revenge success?
Yeah.
It reminded me of when I first moved to Oregon. It was a very different kind of town than I'd ever lived in. I grew up in Rhode Island. I went to school in Virginia.
I totally forgot that you grew up in Rhode Island. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then went to school in Richmond, Virginia, and you know how Rhode Island is. And then I don't know if you know about Virginia, but it's sort of somewhat DC and somewhat the South and whatever. But all the music was very Dave Matthews-y, college jammy rock stuff. And anyway, as I moved out to Portland, Oregon, it's very, very DIY, punk rock, avant-garde, noise, and out of tune vocals, and people who can't tune their guitar, but somehow they sell out the 300 capacity room every time. Like, it boggled my mind. But anyways, all that to say, so the first record I put out with with a band out there got completely trashed in the local press. One of the reviews was, pretty vicious. Really, I was like ashamed. Partially because everyone in town that's in the music scene reads these things and now is looking at me like the recipient of all this bad press, but also I was ashamed because I knew in some ways these bad criticisms were correct, and I wasn't yet mature enough in what I was trying to do, even though what I was trying to do was slightly different from what the town's aesthetic was. Anyway, all that to say, I collapsed and folded in on myself for a few weeks, and yeah, I don't know if left on my own, I don't know if I would have hoped it turned it into probably would have. But anyways, my ex at the time, she was basically like, screw them, like just go make a record for yourself, put it out under your own name, like don't give up, go do that. And so I went and made that record as this kind of revenge success idea of like, fuck everyone.
Yeah.
I am making the record I want to make. This is for no one. This is for me. And it changed my life. It came out and got the complete opposite reaction. It got unanimous, good press. I went on my first West Coast tour, and every town we stopped in, there were 2 or 3 great reviews in all the local magazines. And, that gave me confidence and also the kind of sort of career foundation, I guess, of the press and all that stuff, to go on more tours and put out more records. And so anyways, that's my own initial revenge success story. But
it's amazing.
I'm thinking like maybe I should be just as suspicious of the almost unanimous glowing press too, because like, why are they right? Well, I guess I thought the bad press was right too at the time. But anyways, like when you kind of like start letting that stuff affect your self-worth, like, which I definitely do. Like, I want people to like my music, but yeah, it's a funny place to be in. Well, that's making music for yourself and then putting it out there and wanting everyone to love it.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen, but
yeah, that's a great story. That's a great story, and now you have a name for it. Revenge success, right?
Blog post coming.
I use it all the time, but I'll tell you, when I first started doing music in Miami, and my friends had a charity for wounded vets, and I had written this song called "United We Stand," and it was it was a patriotic song about post 9/11, blah blah blah, and it was very John Mellencamp, very John Mellencamp. So somebody in the press gets it down here, and I think it was the Miami Herald, just a little blurb. And they trashed it. And they're like, oh, this guy's just a wannabe, literally wannabe Bruce Springsteen, blah, blah, like, trashed it, right? My friends who, asked if they could use the song for their charity and stuff, they were mortified. They were like, oh my God, we feel so bad. I said, don't worry about it, watch this. So I started sharing it. I was like, either this is going to make me cry or I'm just going to make something out of it. I started sharing it on my social media. And then all my little fans, not little, I shouldn't say little, but at this stage, I didn't have a lot of fans. But the fans that I had were all like, oh, these people are crazy. Oh, I love this song. So it generated a bunch of buzz to the people that mattered.
Right. Well, that's an interesting thing that I've kind of been obsessing about, of bypassing these whatever gatekeepers or intermediaries. Is like, it's you and your fan, like, and forget about the Miami Herald or whatever, as long as you can reach those people directly, then
that's why I think, or I just at least choose to believe that this is a great time for us, that we can as independent artists, that's another great thing too, man. I've never written a song for anybody else. I know that if I tried to, it would suck. So for us to be able to just, try to keep I always think like just try to keep getting better at being you, and try to keep improving on like what either you or I, so to speak, what we love, like whatever your image is as an artist. I mean, it should be you, but it should, in some instances, like me, it's an exaggerated version of me when I'm on stage and stuff. But I don't write songs about the beach because I live in the woods. I write songs about the beach because I literally live on the beach and I'm obsessed with it. But having said that, writing songs for yourself and then going along on your career, and then as you keep going, more and more people, whether it's slow or fast, out of those 1,000 people or 100,000 people, every single person that then says, wow, I really like this guy. I like this guy's music. It's amazing because you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
And then it's a numbers game, of course. And there's always going to be those people that are just assholes, number one. But then when you get that, 1% of people, it's like they like this music because it came from you with no intention. It's exactly what you wanted to do. It's your music, like the CD that you said that you put out, that you're like, oh, fuck everybody, I'm just going to do what I want. That's a beautiful thing when people respond to that.
Sure. I mean, because if you want music that's made by a committee and designed for a particular reason or it's like just turn on the radio. Like a lot of that stuff is such, and that sounds like a criticism. Like earlier I said I love pop music. I do, and sort of popular country music and all that stuff. It's like, but it's often not a singular vision that's going to stand as something very, like you're saying, authentic to a particular person's identity. And so like, I think there's room for both of those kinds of expressions in music.
And there's fans everywhere that are dying for, shit, man. We went to see Bruno Mars. Bruno Mars, amazing. I don't really buy his music, but oh my God, what an amazing show.
Good performer, yeah.
Incredibly talented dude. Incredibly talented songwriter. But then, and there's millions of fans for him. There's millions of fans for Chris Robley, that people, want more introspective, lower, let's just say, I don't know, I'm just making shit up, but like low-key kind of Nebraska, Springsteen, almost Dylan-esque. Can I throw this name out there? What's this guy's name? Jason Isbell?
Oh, yeah. Please.
I mean...
yeah. That guy's amazing.
Yeah, he's amazing. I mean, I buy his stuff, and so. But the cool thing is now that we can just, not just because these are decades-long endeavors, but people that like just Jason Isbell will probably like your music. People that like Bob Dylan will probably like your music.
My brain is lighting up with like 4 different directions, but so when you said they'll probably like mine if they like Bob Dylan or Jason Isbell, we're also in a golden age because you can, for very cheap ad rates, find those people. Like you go on Facebook and target 5 million people who like those exact artists, or maybe you want only Bob Dylan fans who also like just the level of granularity you can get with his targeting is amazing. And people gripe all the time about paying Facebook. Oh, now we have to pay Facebook. Well, yeah, it's an ad platform, and if you're taking yourself seriously as a business, which most musicians don't, then you have to spend money. You got to spend money to make money. You're going to have to spend a lot of money up front early on to whatever it is, build the infrastructure, or to get your initial fan base, or to make a record, whatever it is. There's tons of expenses, and like embrace that. Like get to work.
I watched Shark Tank. It's called Customer Acquisition Cost.
Right.
And literally, and this is good because this is what I want to talk more about, the actual business, because you obviously know a lot about it. And this is stuff that the Facebook ads and stuff I do know some about, but you're enlightening me right now. I never thought of the targeting being that specific. I mean, that's brilliant. And just to add to what you were saying, people are like, hey, you got to pay for this, you got to pay for that. Number one, Facebook is still the cheapest, most direct advertising you can get on the planet, as far as I know. I'm not an expert.
Yeah.
But
no, I mean, it is.
when you see Nike and Target and everybody else starting to dip into the Facebook and social media ads, you know that they've done all the research. If they're doing it, there's a reason. It's because it's working. So I think I cut you off like 8 times, but go ahead with what you were saying with the targeting on Facebook ads.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly grand. Like, you could say, I want to target every person in Miami, or, within a 75-mile radius of Miami, who likes Bob Dylan, but they also must like Jason Isbell. And by the way, they also must have an interest in either, whatever, 2 other things. You could, and now the more specific and smaller the group, probably the more expensive it is to advertise to each of those people. So if you can have an ad set that's, between like 500,000 and 3 or 4 million people, that's a broad enough slice of people that it's very affordable to reach some segment of them. And, if you're just concerned with getting Jason Isbell fans in the US and Europe and Japan or whatever, then you're going to be, your ad rates will go down even further. But yeah, I mean, it's so specific and so powerful. Another thing I was going to say about this being like kind of a golden age is like, not only can you reach these people, but then because music sales have taken a backseat to just music access and, streaming and what people can do with your music, it relieves us of the burden, at least up front in the early stages of meeting new listeners, of being salespeople. Like, the only thing we have to sell now is like, this is worth your 5 seconds that it takes to press play and listen for a second. And I think that's exciting, because then if we're creative people, like, we can then bring a creative energy to the marketing or to the story behind the song, or to whatever you're doing, your video making, to try to capture people's attention. And I think it makes it more about the connection and more about the ways in which you're grabbing people's attention than feeling like you got, oh God, what am I going to say now to these same people to get them to buy my CD, which is $15, and that's a big ask of someone who doesn't really know. Like, we don't have to worry about that up front anymore. Definitely down the line, I think once people are fans, absolutely we need to make as much as an effort as ever to sell them physical stuff, and put more effort into making the CD or the vinyl or whatever it is worth buying. It's got to have a lot of care in it, but that's later. Like,
yeah, and I think that the bottom line is definitely that you can you get your fans yourself. You have the connection with your fans yourself. You grow the relationship with your fans, and then those people want to buy stuff, and where it used to be like, it's a really good point that I'm actually having a hard time wrapping my head around it. Like, how would I, if I were a record company, or if I were myself or you, how would I sell a single to just a single or a record to like people cold, you know what I mean? That I don't have a connection with, that don't know who I am. I mean, the only way would be to pay $100,000 and get it on the radio. And then maybe they would go out and buy it. But other than that, I mean, that's a tough sell, where you just kind of invert it, where you establish a relationship with the music fans, and all of the other things in between disappear. Then it's not cold, because you have a relationship with them, whether it's just on social media or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like kind of seems like a culmination of like a few different things we've talked about. It's like, if you embrace the fact that it's all numbers, and you need to reach way more people who are then going to reject you or be indifferent to you, so that you can get to the people who are interested in taking the low impact action, like streaming a song or watching a video or whatever. And then you have the ability to follow up with those people and maybe give them something more, something creative, something authentic, whatever. Like, you're like whittling down those people, but like you're getting to those core listeners who, hopefully at that point, maybe they're on your email list, so your costs of reaching them are then free or go way down, so you're not constantly having to do advertising to get to these people. But like, then it's like, your whatever you'd call it, your conversion rate on sales would go way up if once you've focused more on the enticement of those introductions and I don't know, I feel like a marketer using all these terms, but kind of making them loyal to your music.
Yeah.
And not spending all that money, like you're saying up front, to get them to buy the thing. Spend the money to reach the people and make the right relationships, and then you almost have to spend no money later to get them to buy the thing.
Boom. Yes. You just summed it up. I think that's what I was trying to think of in my brain, but that's exactly the point of the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's what you just said, which I'll have to run it back and take that segment and then like write it out and put it on my fridge, because it just, that makes sense, reach out, establish a relationship with the people that are going, the fans. Just, fuck everybody else. You're a musician, you want to make a living, you want to make money with your music, you have to connect with the people that are going to buy and support your music. God damn it. I mean, they're the number one. It should be the number one focus, and then eventually people are going to buy. And now, then when you have your fan base, people will buy almost everything that you put out.
Yeah, well, it sounds like this is another thing I wish I had known and embraced a lot sooner. And it sounds like you've been doing it for a long time with those postcards that you send to fans and stuff. But like, just the simple thing of treating your fans like they're the star.
Yes, sir.
It's like, so like I maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, someone wrote me, responded to one of my kind of mass emails about a new song, and they had they really liked the lyrics, and they were commenting on that. And I wrote them back, and I expressed like such deep gratitude that they'd listened in the first place, and then listened and really responded to it, and taking the time to let me know, because I think a lot of times fans don't know what that means to the artists. So I was explaining that, and then they just wrote back like, I cannot believe you wrote me back. This made my day. Like, oh my God, like as if I'm some like unreachable star, which of course makes me feel good. But I'm like, no, I'm just finding like 2 minutes to write you back, and because holy crap, like how amazing is it to have a listener, let alone thousands. Just that one person is like amazing. So I think to treat all of your or to try to treat all of your listeners like that, and make it known that if they want in on that kind of connection and attention, like, you have ways of providing it.
Yeah, and I mean, what a friggin', I got goosebumps listening to that, because what a win-win. You are putting out, you're bearing your soul. We all know it's really freaking hard, whether you're doing pop music or singer-songwriter music or polka, whatever. You create music and you're putting it out, and it's yourself, especially for us, our names are on the front, and then somebody sends you a message that it meant so much to them, and then that message, they have no idea how much that message that they sent to you means to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's such a win-win. It's so friggin' amazing. Now, that's how to win, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and those are the types of emails and like things that I feel like are becoming way more prevalent for me. They're happening more often now that I have tried to kind of be more vulnerable and more accessible and not concerned about my, cool, whatever, what do they call it, hipster cred or whatever, my accolades or whatever, like, because that's the thing, like, honestly, like, that email means so much more to me than probably any review I've ever gotten from, like, a professional music critic, like, so yeah, I don't know, I'm rambling off here.
No, no, you're not. That's absolutely, I get it 1,000,000%. It's way more important, I believe, because it's from some person that's not hired to sit there and write about music. It's someone that you actually, out in the real world, touched, made a difference with your friggin' music that you basically, you're born to do, and it's amazing. It's amazing. Music can do amazing things, and if we can all replicate, just in a very organic, natural way, what you just described, if we could just replicate that and keep doing that, as long as we can keep doing it, then as artists, we're gonna do great, especially these days.
Yeah, when you were saying the thing about you and me having our names on the product, I guess, it made me wonder, like, what is the psychological difference between people who are in a band with a band name and someone who's a solo artist, in terms of the fear or whatever, or the connections, when it's like, I guess what I'm wondering is, like, we want to create this music that we hope lives longer than we do, and it has a kind of, it's archived somewhere, and then if that's the case, like, oh my God, it's going to have my name on it forever, or until the internet collapses, or what, I can't hide behind, because I don't want to take my previous music down, music that I think, my name's on it, but I've changed and whatever. Like, I still think it's valid music. I want to leave it up, but oh man, all this stuff's gonna have my name on it. Can't hide behind it. I don't know. It just made me curious about.
I've got some embarrassing shit on iTunes. Let me tell you. Everybody go listen to, like, I won't say the names of the songs, but they're pretty bad. But, hey,
But you know what? The other thing is, like, that record I said when I was like, oh, fuck everyone else, I'm gonna make what I want, and that record changed my life and was absolutely, like, a great thing for me. But even that has a bunch of songs that I feel like, I don't really, like, stand by these songs anymore, and so, like, on a bad day I might actually be tempted to take that down, or at least not to, like, share it that much. And then I also hear from people who are like, that's my favorite record of yours, what a great, so what do I know, like.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that part of if you want to be in this in the music business, in this way, in this capacity that we both are, it's like there's so many skills that you have to, in my opinion, you should at least be working on and cultivating and getting better at, and one of those is simply having a thicker skin. Because, like I said, when I first started, I was just so insecure, and not that I'm not now, but I definitely,
right.
I take things way different. Oh my God, way different. I had somebody trash one of my videos where I was literally, we were opening for Bret Michaels a month and a half ago. We were doing a cover of Bruno Mars. And it And this guy who kept trying to get me to hire him to play guitar on my Facebook band page, I had put this little clip, and he's with his like, there's all these like real country people, that hate new country. And so he's with all these, people that are old school country aficionados, so to speak, and they're just trashing me. So at first I was like,
on your own Facebook page?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh damn.
And so usually I just ignore it, right? And that's a Tim Ferriss thing that I read in his book. He's like I have, I reached millions of people, 10% they're going to be jerks, and I ignore almost every single one of them unless I've had too much wine. But this guy had been sending me all these messages over the years saying, hey man, I'm going to be in town, I'd love to, play shows with you, because he plays guitar, right? So I just had a blast with it.
I assume he's never going to get the gig.
No, he's like, he literally put on this post, he's like, you're an effing joke to even consider yourself to be part of the country music genre. You should learn how to move, like just all this stuff. You should learn how to perform, and it's hilarious because it was a fan taking the video, and
who was obviously moved to shoot what they were seeing.
Yeah, and the video, not for nothing, but these are things that like, forget everybody else, but I've strived for in my life, is to play shows where you have a lot of people going crazy over what you're doing, right? There are women screaming in the video so loud that you could barely even hear. So it was kind of hilarious. So I just started like going, I'm like, oh hey, thanks for all the extra views on the video and stuff. Just like the Johnny Depp quote, Pirates of the Caribbean, and the guy is like, you're the worst pirate I've ever heard of, and Johnny Depp's like, but you have heard of me.
Right.
So then I started, I went back to like 2014 and found all of his messages to me on Facebook, and I took screenshots of them. And he had tagged all of his little friends, living in trailers or whatever they're doing in the bayou. And they're like, yeah, Waylon Jennings would be rolling over in his grave right now. This isn't country music. What a poser. So after I let all these people put all these things, and I'm just kind of joking with them, and then I started posting his post to me.
Wow.
Asking me for a job. So
that shut him up?
Oh yeah, and he started apologizing. Oh, he's like, I didn't even think that you'd respond to it.
I don't understand. So, I mean, I know this is the most basic question about like trolling or whatever you want to, or just meanness in general. Like, who has time to go out of their way to friggin' waste a second of their life on this negativity? Like, if you didn't like it and you really just think Waylon Jennings is the be-all, end-all of country music and what you're doing doesn't interest him, fine. Go away. Like,
yeah, go practice.
Right. I mean, I go back to the numbers game. I've been sharing the music video I made for my song Anonymous on Facebook again after a little while of not sure. I'm putting money behind it, going to cold audiences, people who've never seen it. And the caption I used is, every second of this was filmed backwards, because basically I lip synced the song in reverse. And
I have seen this video.
Oh, okay. So when we flipped it around, I'm moving in strange ways. And, by and large, all the comments are positive from people who are like, oh, what's this? And if they watch it, they tag a friend or they say, this is cool or whatever. But, like I'd say 1 to 5% of the comments are, like one guy was like, the song sucks, but it was impressive that he did that video. And I didn't respond to him, but then like a lot of people have been like, this isn't the first time this has been done. And I'm like, did I say it was? Like, Jack Johnson made a backwards video. Like, remember that movie Top Secret from the 80s with Val Kilmer? Like, there's a backwards scene in that. I'm like, of course it's not did I claim it was the first thing? So anyways, I've just been responding to them being like, no, this technique was first used in 1898. And like, go away.
Like, I have to give them the whole history. I was actually the 73rd person to shoot a video back.
Yeah. As if I'm like, I don't know, like it's just so insulting that they think they're teaching me something. Like that's not an insult. I know this is probably done literally tens of thousands of times.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I'm not trying to be Waylon Jennings or Hank Williams.
Right.
Thanks though. Bro,
yeah.
I appreciate it. Sorry if all these thousands of people are bothering you by going crazy at one of my concerts. And yeah, it's ridiculous. Like I literally I put, hey, thanks for the advice, man. I appreciate it. Like,
yeah,
it's incredible that people will find the time to do this. But
they will. A small percentage of them will always find the way.
Yep, they definitely will. I mean, the best thing I guess you can do is either ignore it. It'll bother you for 20 seconds, and then get, like I always say, something pisses you off, get to work.
Yeah.
And by work, for us, we're kind of, let's just say, blessed, because work is, go in your room and write another song, or work on the poetry that you're working on, or work on a gig, or go email back that fan that just told you that your music had a huge impact on them. Email them back and say, hey, I just wanted to thank you again for doing that. And then you'll forget about that one idiot in Bangladesh that
right.
doesn't like the fact that you put out a video that was backwards and you didn't name which chronological order it was in.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's the blessing and the curse of running our own music lives, is there's no shortage of work to be done, so we can endlessly dig into tasks.
Absolutely. Well, I could talk about this all day, and it's fascinating, and your stories and the stuff that number one, the stuff that's worked, and the stuff that you're working on is fantastic. Especially, I'm one of the listeners too, but obviously for the people listening and that are trying to, get to the next level, get to where you are in their career. I love, just gotta say, I love the story of basically you just saying fuck everybody and doing the one record for yourself, and then it basically coming out as your triumph, when you just stripped away what everybody else is thinking. And
yeah, I guess it's the creative equivalent of hitting bottom in a way. It's like I'd been panned by everyone who knew everyone in my town. I was like just afraid to just go outside, Oh,
wow.
I mean, not to that degree, but like I remember going to the next show to see a friend's band a couple days after those reviews came out, and I was just like, is anyone going to say anything to me? And literally I walked in the door, and the first guy, this guy Nick that I knew, he came up to me, he's like, sorry about those reviews, man. It's like, oh God, you're confirming that literally everyone is laughing at me.
Oh, damn.
So it was like, in a way that was freeing. It's like, well, everyone is in on this, so I have nothing to lose by just doing whatever the hell I want now.
Well, I'm glad it worked. Definitely.
Right. Me too.
Yeah, it would have been a different conversation if that record didn't work for you.
If it hadn't, I might be some, mega wealthy financier.
Yeah, there you go. And let's go over again before I forget, because my notes are falling all over the place. So everybody listening, get Chris Robley's free CD and let them know where to get it again.
So it's go.chrisrobley.com.
It cannot be much easier than that.
And then just so you don't feel duped, it's free, but you do have to cover shipping. And then I will send it to you. I'll autograph it, put a little extra goodie in there.
I love it. You see that? See? That is treating your fans like the royalty that they need to be treated like. So let that be a lesson to everybody. Seriously, I mean, these are really, really, really good, important things. I mean, if you're an up-and-coming artist, like I am, consider taking a page from Chris and, doing it's called free plus shipping. If you really want to get your music into real fans' hands, then come up with a way to offer your CD or something, and if they'll just simply cover shipping, however much that is, then it's a win-win. They're going to have your music, they're going to become fans, and you're gonna have a new fan, and they don't have to pay anything but the shipping costs.
Yeah, and I think the larger thing is that maybe they don't have a CD yet, or they're not in a place where they can give that out. But it's like, put a ton of effort into something that your fans feel like is a cost to you in time or energy or whatever, but honoring them. And that could be, who knows, you create some behind the scenes club where like every day you do a Skype conversation. I don't know what it is. It could be any number of things, but just something that they see is costing you something in order to show your appreciation, I think is what's most important about any of these types of campaigns.
Yeah, or little tips and tricks. Number one, I'll just share some of mine. Start a fan club in Facebook. It's free. Start it yesterday. I had Debbie McGee Griffin, this lady that I met at a solo show. I think I met her in either Philadelphia or Key West. And all the people that were kind of coming up at the same time as me, and I was playing these solo shows. A lot of people would be like, you're not going to gain any fans doing those little shows, at bars. And I'm like, number one, it's the only way I'm paying my rent. So,
right, that's important too.
Yeah, that's secondary. But trust me, if you're not an asshole, you can gain a lot of great fans at these small shows. You get a chance to get to know them. Mm-hmm. So, however many years ago, this lady was like, I think she just did it. She's like, I started you a Facebook fan page, and I was mortified. I was like, oh my God, that's so embarrassing, because I never would have done it myself because it's so self-righteous, and I'm thinking, oh my God, now nobody's gonna go on my fan page, and long story long, I mean, it's like my second family. It's huge, and I guess the point of it is, number one, start your own fan club. Doesn't matter who it is; it's free. Invite everybody on there, and then make people, do special posts for them to make them feel special. And simple things like tag people in certain posts on social media. It doesn't cost you anything. I want to tell you what I have right in front of me on my desk. Okay, I just started a Patreon page. We talked a little bit about this before.
Okay.
Because what I do, and I'm putting together a course, which I don't want to even plug yet because it's not done. But I'm putting together a course of just what I've learned to try to help people book gigs, but also to have a little more success as an independent artist. And so what I did was, after this fan club on Facebook started to become popular, every once in a while I'd go in and I'd be like, oh, hey, I'm in Nashville. Who wants a postcard? Oh, hey, I'm going to be in Key West. Who wants a postcard, right? So a bunch of people would be like, oh, I want a postcard. So, it turns into a pain in the ass. You have to go get postcards. You have to write them all out. You have to pay for the postage and, sign it and everything, right? But when somebody in Coventry, Rhode Island, I have a list in front of me right now, someone in Pennsylvania or whatever gets a postcard from Key West from Chris Robley in their mailbox, it means the world to them.
Yeah.
And it costs you like maybe $3.
Right.
And I've been doing that for years. And actually, it became so expensive because so many people wanted them that my wife was like, maybe you should start a fan club that's like a subscription so that people are paying,
kind of subsidize it a bit.
Yeah, and you can offer stuff. So I just threw it together a couple weeks ago, and it's doing way better than I thought it would.
That's awesome. Yeah. How sort of personalized do you make the postcards? Like, are you spending quite a bit of time writing each one, or?
Not really, to be honest. Because we were doing a lot, so.
That's always the aspect of like any of these types of things that is intimidating, is that when it requires a level of personalization that becomes unmanageable. It's like when I did my crowdfunding campaign, and I was reaching out to people via Facebook because it was the most effective thing I could do. I'd found that if I wrote to 50 people, personal friends on Facebook, not necessarily fans of my music page, but if I was doing that, 25% of them within a day would contribute. And so quickly that's working, but it also took so much time. Like, I don't even know if I ever wrote 50 people because every single one I wanted to make, cut and paste. There at least be 2 or 3 pieces that were custom. Then just committing to do that meant that this project was going to take way too long.
Yeah.
So those things always scare me, but
well, that's exactly that's a great point. That's exactly why we decided to make it. Patreon just seemed like it was a good platform for it because it's basically like Kickstarter, but it just keeps going.
Right. Yeah.
And we had to do something because. We didn't want to stop doing stuff, but also, you build up your career. You try to just do everything you can for your fans, and I honestly think a lot of my fans want to, they just want to support, and they just want to support people that just buy whatever I put out. I do a new T-shirt, they want it. Mm-hmm. CDs are so goddamn expensive now. People think they're inexpensive, but $10,000-$20,000 for production. And this is what I tell people on the Patreon little video. There's no way I'm going to make that back. I'm not getting radio play. If I sell a bunch of CDs and downloads at my shows, that's great, but to make back $20,000
right
on one CD is going to take the rest of my life. So I think, and I found that they do want to reciprocate. And I literally have in front of me a printout of my, I just call it my VIP fan club, and I have all of their names and all of their addresses because I sent them all a little something from Nashville. And it starts at $1 a month. I got that from Cowboy Mouth, the guy that does the Cowboy Mouth Patreon. Mm-hmm. That's what he told me to do. And then people can pay whatever they want. So I have people paying $1. I have people paying $10, $15 a month. And then I put one tier, kind of like Kickstarter, which I made it, very easy for me to do. Basically, I would do like a voiceover on somebody's favorite song. You know, like if their favorite song was Chasing the Sun or something, I would do a voiceover at the beginning of it, thanking them for being a VIP fan. So I have one person that's and their family that's paying $100 a month. And the other day, I woke up at 5 a.m, pulled up, I knew the guy's favorite song, pulled it up on GarageBand, did a voiceover, saved it, put it on YouTube, and I set it to go out on the 1st, because that's when people's cards get charged for the month, and that was like my reward for him.
Huh. That's cool. And then, so for the $1 a month, is that covering the cost that it takes you to print the postcards and mail them?
No.
It's just helping.
Yeah. Okay. So, I have, and that's the thing. I wish people could see it, but I've been doing these postcards for however many years, and I do them because they're multi-purpose. I send them the same postcard I send to venues. So it's, I'm always working on like the non-pitch sell, if you know what I mean. And this sounds so cheesy, but this is all going to be in my course. It's already written out. But not that I've developed, but I've just kind of, out of just sheer fear of making pitchy phone calls to try to get gigs, I've done it where I have like a little technique, where I always call. I always call and I say something. I always say kind of the same thing, right? I always say like, I found to keep it casual, number one. I say, hey, how's it going? This is Tim Charron. We do country music, country rock with a twist of lime. And I wanted to get your email so I could submit to play at, MegaFest 2000. And that's it. Not, I'm awesome. Not, look at this. Not,
right.
I played for this person. I record with this person. All I want is your email, which is easy, so you can get the hell off the phone because you don't want to talk to me because you don't know me.
Yeah.
So then, through the magic of CD Baby, I have my website on Host Baby. I make sure that I have, and I do my little email signature with my antivolleytour.com, timcharron.com, and then I put a live video link, right? So I kind of have it down to this system where I'm never calling somebody, because I used to do it all the time, and it's awful and it's painful, and it made me want to quit music. It made me want to quit trying to get gigs because I hated trying to impress people on the phone.
Yeah.
Or trying to impress people in general. It sucks. So I just came up with a system through trial and error where you just get off the phone with them because they don't want to talk to you. You get their email. You email them with something, basically saying the same thing. Hey, we want to submit to this. Here's our stuff. Here's our links. We all know what they want. I'm on the entertainment committee for FFEA. Long story short, we pick who's gonna perform at the conference every year down here in Florida. If you don't send us a live video. Live, meaning live, of you performing, we don't consider you whatsoever. And that's the only thing we really go on. They'll send us their website and stuff like that, and I don't look at them.
Yeah, because you just need to know what they can do live.
Yep.
Right.
What are you going to do when you show up? That's all we need to know. And then, so on top of that, I've come up with, these other little things that are basically ways to keep people on your mind. Was that the other way around? To keep you on people's mind without you harassing them and calling them, and that's where the postcard comes in. I send them to So it's just an expense for me that I'm always ordering postcards. So I have the same postcard that I send to a venue. I also will, sometimes I get like Nashville postcards for like the VIP fans that I actually buy separate, but that's just being special. But these postcards, I send them to fans, I send them to venues, I send them to record companies, publishers, people that I know, people that I've talked to just remind them that I'm here. And then when I go play a show, if I'm playing at a bar for 10 people, I bring postcards. I give them postcards. I sign them. I do it like a total, I developed my own, like, at the beginning it was like, I had to develop these little techniques. And if I'm at a bar in Key West, and way back in the day, and somebody, wanted to buy a CD, I'd be like, oh, let me sign it for you. I don't let them make them, I don't ask them.
Right.
I just assume, and you guys gotta be kind of bold. But back to the postcards, I bring them, and now, when I play a big show, I tell people, go to the merch booth after the show. I'm going to be there. I have free postcards to sign for everybody, and I want to get my picture taken with you guys.
That's cool.
Dude.
And then suddenly you're tagged in everyone's photos.
Oh, yeah. And I have, to brag about myself, because hopefully these are lessons that people, they'll take them and use them. We open for big name acts. We're in front of 5,000 people. We have, coupled with a show that you really put a lot of effort into. But even if it's a small solo gig, you have people coming up, and you have this postcard. You sign it. You have somebody take a picture, you put that out on your website, on your social media, all that stuff. It's a great look, but also they go home with this postcard. They're not going to throw it away. Hopefully they're going to leave it somewhere so that they can see it. They're going to remember it. They're going to remember you. It all kind of works together.
Yeah. You ever get any people sharing pictures of your postcard on their fridge?
I get that. I get mostly people want to share the picture with you, and that's why I'm like, I harp on, and again in my course, or when people ask, like, always develop a way. And I use my wife for this at the beginning of now I use my fans, but always develop a way, like, and even just try to work on getting yourself to the point. I ask if I'm at a show, and sometimes I don't play big shows. I wish I did. If I'm at a show, like I'm playing at Margaritaville next month in Key West, and there'll be, it's a bar. So I'm playing there every week just for fun, just so I can go to Key West and get paid a couple of bucks, And if there are people at that show, I'll be like, hey, I want to get my picture taken with you.
Yeah.
And they're going to be, oh, the singer wants to get their picture taken with me. They're going to post it on their Facebook. People love that. But and then people, like, when I send stuff in the mail, they'll post that. It's just like, you want to make it an avalanche of, then you want to thank them for posting it, and you just want to make it like all this momentum of like a big freaking love fest for your fans.
Right. Yeah. I need to get better about the pictures that showed. One thing I definitely back on.
Yeah, it's really difficult. We're one person organizations, and we're trying to juggle 5 billion things and especially after a show, it's always for me it's a challenging time because I'm trying to manage what's going on and kind of be cool to the fans, even if it's only two. I want to capture those people. I'll tell you what, man. Great thing that happened in my career is I started working with Bret Michaels, and I just watched what that guy does. And you might not like his music or his anything, but number one, he's an extremely genuine, sweet person, but he's such a great business person. And when it comes to dealing with his fans, business-wise and just making them feel special, guy's amazing.
That's awesome. I remember hearing last time I was in Nashville, I was hanging out with this guy who had done, it doesn't have anything to do with Bret Michaels or Poison, but he was talking about how he for was it Slayer? It was some metal band, and he'd also done merch from country acting on ether, monstrous, and one of them played it, whatever the tens of thousands of people, and to like 500 or 1,000 people or something, and he was saying Slayer did just as much or maybe just slightly less in merch sales than the huge country star because they treated their fans like such stars, like we were saying, like just like having a genuine connection, showing the appreciation, and like a fraction of the audience bought almost as much as the merch of the whatever Enormo Dome concert, which was like, that's so cool.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, I get it, but, and I'm actually a Slayer fan of their music from way back in the day, but that's astonishing.
Yeah, I was like, well, what do you think it is? Is it just that they're more available to their fans? He's like, well, that's part of it, but also they actually they were doing more to make like limited edition items that like, so one fan might be buying 5 or 6 different things, whereas at I don't know if it was Keith Urban, but some giant country star, it's like, I'll get the T-shirt, and then even with the T-shirts, he said there was like a guy's T-shirt and a girl's T-shirt, whereas Slayer there was like 15 different versions, and so it was kind of like just availability of choices, the limited edition aspect of it, like they would sign posters from that show, and
oh wow, that's super cool.
So yeah, that was
those I'm telling, man, these are invaluable things. I mean, for people to be doing in this business. I mean, it's like if you want to be do what we do, you have to realize that it's a business and work on the business. I mean, I didn't get it at the beginning or the middle or whatever this is, I've had to, I'm constantly working on it. But I think that there became a point where I started getting really excited about it because it's like, oh, this is kind of fun and cool because it's like as if I opened a store or a bar or something, but it's my music and I get to perform too, and I get paid.
Yeah.
And so if I can do this, and then like you said, you be as creative with the business aspect and the marketing aspect and the merch aspect as you are with your, being a creative person with your music and your poetry.
Yeah, I always feel, I was saying kind of flippantly, like, it's a business. You got to have all these operating costs and upfront customer acquisition costs, and that is completely true. I then feel bad for people who are not in like an economic place to put much money into it. But then even it's the same thing applies. Just play a gig, put that money away. Mm-hmm. Play your weekly gig or whatever it is, and whatever money you're making from music while you also have your day job, like. stash it away, and then once you've got enough, use that for whatever that most important thing is, whether it's Facebook ads or recording, or like, you still got to hustle and sacrifice in that.
Absolutely. I think that's the most underrated aspect of what musicians have to do, is that people don't understand the amount and the kind of sacrifices that need to be made, or the decisions that need to be made as well. Where do you put your money towards? And like I said at the beginning, I think I said, I never want to profess to teach anybody anything that I don't know, that I didn't actually do. And so, just my story, I played bar stools for years, played covers. If somebody wanted me to play 4 hours of covers, I'd play 4 hours of covers, because I'd walk out of there with, $200 a night was a big deal to me. It was because
I still do those, not all the time. I still do those kinds of gigs once in a while. I have one in November scheduled where it's 3 hours of covers, and I can do my own stuff too, but I know the audience. I'll do 80% covers or something like that.
Totally, absolutely. That's what I'm doing at Margaritaville, and some people are like, "Oh, you shouldn't have to play covers." Number one, the Beatles played covers. Number two. Right. I had this guy at the beginning of when I first moved to Nashville. He's one of these supposed, you probably know the name, so I won't even say it. But these people that are, what are they, music industry consultants or whatever I call them. And this guy tells me, I go to one of their meetings, and he's like, "Well, you should have if you're going to do covers in your sets, you should have a completely separate name, because people are going to get confused between you as an artist and you as someone playing covers."
That's odd.
And number one, it still confuses me. I don't really understand what he was saying. How are people going to get confused between? But the point was, you're not paying my rent. I'm like, this is working. I'm hustling to get these gigs, and I'm playing my ass off, but I'm, making $1,000 a week. So, and that's how I'm living. So, and that's how that's how I got more comfortable performing. That's how you learn a lot when you're doing all those things too. But,
I also think when someone gives that advice that like you should be playing under different names, if that's your approach, like doesn't have the mentality that music and that your music career is a lifelong pursuit. I feel like they're thinking in terms of like, we need to turn you into a star in 6 months and get you signed, and you're going to have it's like a very specific way of thinking. Because if I were, like you're doing, it's like, no, like I play under my name. I can meet lots of different kinds of musical needs. I can do covers. I can do originals. I can do your speaking. It's like, and it's all you, which helps you like just stay sane as a business. Like, you don't suddenly have to have 3 different business names to market now. Like, just from a sanity standpoint, like, and the fact that you're embracing the fact that this is something you're going to be doing forever, like, just keep it all under your name. And
right, exactly. And then like I said, I do the anti-bully thing, the anti-bully tour, and I play covers, because kids are not going to sit there and sing along to my songs because they don't know them. It's just so silly. And then I go open for, or I just go to a big concert, and Bruno Mars plays a couple covers. Kenny Chesney plays a couple covers. Like, come on, people, open your eyes. I get a rush off of it. You played a great cover of I'm going to screw this up, but was it Ed Sheeran?
Oh yeah, I did. Shape of You, is that what it's called? His like big monster hit from last year. Yeah. Nicole
is obsessed with that song, and you killed it. I mean, you did it your way, and it was awesome. I mean,
I have a lot of fun doing that, because I feel like my original music can be serious and sometimes a downer and lyrically. And so I'm like, what's the perfect antidote to this? Well, I'll do like some songs everyone knows that are upbeat, like Ed Sheeran and Katy Perry and whatever else. Like,
yeah. And what I do is when I hear songs that I really love, and I think, oh, this would be so much fun to cover, and then I cover them.
Oh, right.
So I'm not like, I don't go do 4 hours of like playing like disco that I don't like.
Yeah, you do songs you like, and then keep a list, right?
Yeah,
that's exactly what I do.
And again, like you're saying, you take the money from that and you put it into your next CD of recording of original music, or you put it into your next ad, or you put it into sending your fans postcards or getting postcards printed, stuff like that, and again, I mean, it's I guess it's kind of common sense, but it does also take, I think, a lot of trial and error by people like you and I who been doing it for a minute, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe I should do this, and I should take this money from here and put it there.
Right.
Maybe I shouldn't do this. That's what I do that all the time too. Like I'll watch video of some of my live shows and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that intro. Maybe I shouldn't do. There was an intro that I used to start the shows with that ended up being just kind of clunky. I watched it back a few times, and I was like, I could do something smoother than that. So, so I changed it.
Yeah.
So, but that's the beauty of this kind of thing, like these podcasts, and which I think are great because, like I said, I listened to you guys on CD Baby for forever, and I just take one or two little things that resonate with me, and I use it, and it helps my career, and it helps my music, and it helps my life. So hopefully, that's what we're doing right now, and I can't thank you enough for being on. I know that you've got tons of experience with this stuff, and hopefully, some of the things that we talked about will help somebody who's trying to figure out their path to just do a little bit better with their music and their business.
Yeah, no, I love talking about this stuff, so thanks for having me on. And I'm glad you came to that show randomly across the street from your house, your childhood home. No,
let me tell the story just because, we're almost into 2 hours, and and God knows we need more stories on this podcast, but I love when this should happen. I tell people this story, but now let me tell everybody else. So I had just started the podcast at the beginning of the summer, and there was what's this guy's name? Wade Sutton.
Oh, Wade, yep.
Yeah. So I had seen his stuff he promotes his stuff on Facebook pages, right? So I had seen his name, and I was like, hey, I just started this podcast. Do you want to be on it? I just had Bob Baker on. Definitely gonna have Rick Barker on because he seems to really kick some ass. I like his delivery. But anyway, so I didn't know this guy Wade at all, and so I was like, let's talk, about the podcast, about him being on my podcast. So every summer I go up to stay somewhere in Rhode Island, and we've been staying in the same place near Narragansett Beach for the past few years, and I play. That's where my biggest fan base is, and that's what my advice to people too is, if you live in a different town than where you grew up, go back to where you grew up and keep hitting that fan base. So it's where I play most of the bigger shows, and I'm super busy up there because I grew up there and I have a big fan base. So we rent this townhouse in Peacedale, and it is it's just the craziest thing that, like, 2 days before I got on the phone with that guy Wade Sutton, who I didn't know from a hole in the wall. Nice enough guy. He had brought your name up. I don't know why. I think he did the CD Baby podcast or something, and so he's like, "Oh, I know Chris. He's from Maine." Because I think I had seen that he was up in New England.
Oh yeah, that he was traveling around, right?
So I'm like, "Oh, cool, very cool." And I swear to God, so that was the extent of it. I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm sure I know Chris from CD Baby, from the podcast, me knowing your name." So the next day, it had to have been the next day, there's a path that goes right out our back door, right to that street where that venue is. So the venue that you were playing at is literally 400 yards from the place. So we walk, and there's a bike path right next to it. So we walk twice a day when we're there during the summer by that same venue. And the day after I talked to him and your name came up, I literally stop. I go, "There's no way that's the same Chris Robley that I just talked to this guy Wade about." So Nicole, my wife, didn't really know what I was talking about. So I'm like, "Wait, we got to stop." And I Googled your name on my phone. I'm like, "There's no way it's the same person." So long story short, it's the same person. And that night, I'm like, this is too crazy. We got to go to the show. So that night I had dinner plans with my family because I don't see them much, and so we all met for dinner. I'm like, I got to go. I got to go see some random guy that I don't even know. And it ended up being a great show, and I literally, which I never do, I literally remember lyrics to some of the songs. I know that you have one. I don't know if it's patriotic, but it was patriotic in the title of the song. You had a song about something about a bird.
Oh yeah.
Which, I mean, I never remember that stuff. So that's me just giving you the greatest compliment that I could. And your mother's adorable. And there you go. There's the whole story.
Thank you. Yeah, it was random because I remember Wade called me. He's like, "Hey, are you playing in Rhode Island?" I was like, "Yeah, it's me." So then I don't know if he got back to you to confirm, but
yeah, I mean, I think he did, but yeah, it was what a crazy coincidence. But again, let everybody know where they can hear your music, and everybody get the free CD.
Yeah, get the free CD. I'm on all the, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, all those things. So you can listen to me there, or just go to chrisrobley.com.
Excellent. And it's Robley. And on everything that I can, on YouTube and on the description, I'll put links to everything so everybody can find you and your music and your tour schedule, get your free CD. And just follow you with everything that you're doing.
Sweet.
Again, I can't thank you enough. I want to do it again because I feel like I've learned a lot, and I hope that everybody else is learning a lot on these things too. So
cool. Well, yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, buddy. I will talk to you soon, and I'll let you know when everything comes out. And everybody go check out Chris, and also subscribe to the Charron Zone.
Sweet. I'll hopefully see you in Rhode Island next summer.
You got it, man. Thanks.
All right. See ya.
Bye.